Meditation is one of the great gifts of yoga. And it is an exploration of freedom. It is a free state. And so that brings up the question of, well, what is freedom? And how is it realized? And in yoga, there's so much respect for the mind that it is said that yoga is attained through the mind. And then how do you approach the mind? There's so many different types of characters with different relationships to mind. And some approach life in a more physical way, and some in a more analytical way, and some in a very spiritual way. And all have the ability to have freedom as realized through the mind. A freedom that is beyond any way we could describe it. But we are, by our nature, needing of description. That's how we function. That's how we relate. And so we give name and form to things with the hope that it will help us into that freedom. But to see them as stepping stones into the freedom, that the freedom is beyond even that which we can conceive. So if we can't conceive of it, and it exists yet in the mind or through the mind, how do we do this? And this is why yoga is called a science, because there's method. There's method to the state, and it's a measurable state. So although what I speak about can be both understood as a physicist might understand it, and it could be understood as a mystic might understand it, they both are true, and both have method, and both are measurable. Our senses are here to help us relate from inside thought to outside experiences. We learn, hopefully, through our senses. They are the gateways to our mind, our way of learning. And this is why play and exploration are so important as opportunities of learning. But if we accept the play and the objects of the play as the ultimate and place our investment or our thought of freedom in the object itself, we are within limited object, limited freedom, because all objects are within limits. We are within limits. By the fact that we have been born, we are part of that cycle of limits, of beginnings and ends. Again, you could hear it as a mystic, and you can hear it as a physicist, you could hear it as a philosophy, but on all sides, what I say is not opinion. So the fact that we are born means we are part of the physical, we are part of the object-subject world. And yet our senses, they're not bad, and the objects, they're not bad. The experience of being able to relate to them and learn through them and recognize when we place too much emphasis on the object rather than the object as a throughway into a more expansive freedom makes us precarious. So as we use these crutches, these throughways, these support systems, let's use them, indeed, use them, but know what we're doing, rather than becoming disillusioned and thinking that our happiness and our freedom is in object or circumstance. So in recognizing that the mind relates between internal and external through the senses, We need to be able to have an active relationship with our senses. Everybody who is here is able to do that. We do it to varying degrees all the time. You're doing it now in your focus and listening to me. You are choosing a one-pointed way of your attention. You're not, and now you will because I'm going to mention it, you're not thinking of the way your clothes feel on your skin through touch. You're not thinking of the way the taste is in your mouth. Now you are. So you're able to focus your senses. But most common is to focus one dominant sense. And when you have one dominant sense that is still within the sense world, but it is a great thing to recognize, because it is that last sense to be controlled and withdrawn, not engaged in, not interested in, that can help. So in closing those 5 senses, withdrawing them, but what's left? There's still thought. There's still thought even without senses. And so that is the next step. After you've withdrawn the senses and are no longer actively engaging in the material world around you, you still, as you know, are very capable of being engaged in the mind and creating realities through your mind, which is a fabulous gift, but you need to know what it is, or you're delusional. So with the mind, you need to recognize all of its facets, all of its powers. It can be your friend, it can be your foe. If your interest is meditation and your mind takes you into thought, bring it back. It's going to be its nature to always go out. Have in your interest the ability to withdraw from the senses and to let the mind rest. One way to rest the mind is to point it in a particular abstract direction. If you're unable to go into abstract direction and need object, go through object, transcend object. Begin with object and then transcend. Begin with image and then transcend it. Break it open. Nothing that has borders can be the expanse that you will feel when you're in the state of meditation, which is measurable by science. So if you happen through your discipline into an expansive state, not a polite state of holding still and being quiet, that's not meditation. If you happen to be blessed into a state of meditation, you won't know it until you're out of it. It's possible that you'll know it the second you're out of it. You might get excited. You need to, again, smile at your human nature and just tell your mind, as it goes out into excitement, I'm going back in. So you develop the ability to recognize when you're out and the ability to go back in, to transcend. In is inadequate. Words are inadequate. Transcend might be helpful. The physical requirements here, and there are mental and energetic requirements. The physical requirements is that your spine is extended. So if your spine is not extended, you won't be able to be free of the physical suffering. It will cause discomfort. You can lay or you can sit, both on a chair, on the floor, on the earth. All are perfectly fine. But we want to align, because we are a body-mind, we want to align the throughway from mind into body in the most harmonious way we can. So we balance that. We want to sit, if we are sitting, on something that's firm, not overly soft, not like a comfy couch, because we'll slide into something else then. As I mentioned, we want to be comfortable also, just the right state, temperature. And finally, we want to arrive with the interest and the intention. Even if discipline is difficult for you in the rest of your life, allow your discipline within your practice to be practiced. Within life, it is good to have a certain element of discipline, to be able to recognize even when it is not your desire that it is the right thing. And here, within the meditation, the yoga, we're deliberately setting time aside to practice these abilities. So have interest. It is a worthy investment. And it feeds not only you, but the health of us all, since we're all so interrelated. That's all the instruction you need. There's a lot more, but that's all you need. Recognize that your breathing is an exchange between internal and external. There's a wonderful tool, again, a method in regulating the breath and watching the breath. That means the mind pointed at the breath, nice and regulated as you sit. But you need to then even transcend that. If at any point in your meditation you're uncomfortable, on whatever level that is, physical or emotional or whatever it is, tend to it. Don't suffer through it. Tend to it with the goal of completing our hour together with practicing meditation. Okay? So even this focused time right here in talking and setting our intention is part of our meditation. We will start with sitting, and at any time you can go into laying. Okay? If you go into laying, you might place the blanket behind your knees or cover yourself. Welcome. I am bowing to our very highest potential, to the beauty of experiencing the beauty of choice and the beauty of freedom and the common ground within that beauty. Welcome to your practice.